He's been in jail awaiting trial this coming October for more than a year for not only unaliving, but dismembering and disinterring his wife. This past week, some pretty damning evidence has been filed with the court, and now I'm hearing he wants to be bailed out. I have a lot of questions not only about the evidence, but this bail situation. This is an update on the case against Naresh Bhatt and the disappearance of his wife, Mamta Bhatt. Some stuff here doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it will to you. So let's talk about it. Hey guys, it's been more than a minute. I can't even say it's been a minute. And I'm so sorry. And I promise that we will have a lot of splaining to do. Life be life. But this is an important update on a case that we are really committed to. And it's also been a minute since we've had an update. And this past week, updates galore. That being said, I had a surge of adrenaline on the 26th of May when this started unraveling, but then had some technical issues and somewhere around 2 a.m. looked like a feral lunatic. So I'm refreshed now. And it almost came into like this weird, bad, unintentional ASMR video so I wouldn't wake everyone in my house. It was a mess. But now I'm here. I'm flying solo today just so we can get this done. So if you are new here, hi. Or it's been so long that you're brushing dust off of the screen, I'm sorry. I'm Kimberly. My lovely co-host is Lindsay. And what we do here is really simple. We want a seat at the table. I love true crime. I love interacting with others who love it, but in a really intellectual way. Like we're wanting to understand the justice system and the human, morality and interest that comes from it. And you often hear on bigger, even broadcast shows, like, what was the jury thinking? Or what might they be thinking? Well, slide on over, make a seat for us, and we'll gladly tell you what the average juror is probably thinking. So now we're just doing it ourselves on the internet. You might know us or ended up here after seeing us working with Lori Vallow's family, Rex and Adam on their Silver Linings podcast. They're very good friends of ours. We love them. Maybe you've seen us pop in on STS or having STS pop in on us. We've talked to wonderful people like Joel at STS, Josh Ritter, the wonderful Vinnie Politan, Miss Kathy, the queen of gossip over at Gossip Rumor Innuendo. The list goes on. However you got here, hey, so glad you're here. I promise we're going to post more regularly and, not ghost you. I'm sorry. There's really no rhyme or reason. If it's relevant and worth talking about, or we need to talk more about it, we do. This case we're following closely because it's really happening, literally like in my backyard. And since day one, I've been on it. I also have some 6 degrees of separation from the victim, and it felt really personal for me. And this has been popping in and out sort of quietly of headlines as this has been going on since July of 2024. But we have upticks in activity just like right now. So we hope you'll join us. We are the 13th juror, maybe. That's kind of what we are. And so are you. So do me a solid and do 2 a.m. past me like a real solid. Help people remember we're here. So hit the like button, leave your DNA on it. It won't hit back unless you want it to, in which case, subscribe, share, hype, all the new things that are happening, if you wouldn't mind. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. I mean, it's a little bit of a red flag. But then you won't miss, any bigger picture stuff that we're doing. We have a lot of cool stuff still planned and in the chamber. We just had to hit the pause button. In any case, first, if you don't know about the case of Mamta Bhatt, we have done pretty crucial, very detail-oriented, almost chronology, so to speak, of this case and everything involved. There's demonstrations, there's evidence, there's hour-by-hour recreations, some out in the world adventures if you're me, and undoubtedly, we're going to be the one-stop shop on this case so you can get caught up. That playlist will magically pop up here or wherever the editor slides it in. It's me. I'm the editor. I should know, but I don't. I encourage you to go check that out anyway, so you can get caught up if you're not already caught up, so this will make sense to you. And I'm not even going to get sad if you stop this video and go do that, because that means you're going to be ready to go when you do come back. Because I'm just going to jump in. I know people get cranky with too much fluff. And since I'm by myself, there's really no excuse for fluff, because who am I going to talk to other than the barking dog that's upstairs? I manifested that because now here we go. But go ahead and leave if you want to, but please come back. And if you're still here, I'm assuming that's because you're ready to go or you just want to live on the edge. So let's do it. We have an update on evidence, but I do have some questions about it. And maybe one of you might think of an answer or have more questions than I do. The trial of Naresh Bhatt and the disappearance of his wife Mamta in July of 2024, that is still scheduled to proceed in October on charges of unaliving, dismemberment, and disinterment. He has been in custody since last December, well over a year, and he remains in custody, and motions and hearings continue to happen. This case had been continued, much to the judge's irritation, because the defense said there was just so much evidence they had to get through. So we've waited almost 2 years for this trial. And this past week, a bunch of stuff has happened out of nowhere, which is very interesting, and I have some questions. So May 26th, we got details about a forensic report from the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, dated from April 29th, which detail several pieces of evidence. And if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes, so I don't lie to you on accident. Okay? Anyway, it details that there are 3 confirmed human hairs, 13 hair fragments, apparent fibers and debris that were recovered from a reciprocating saw that has already been cataloged into evidence. And if you're thinking, is that the same saw we did a video on? Pop up here, because we did a whole demonstration to help you visualize where and what evidence was on the saw. Go look. Yeah, no, same one. So turns out they also got hairs off of it in addition to blood. However, before I get to the eyebrow-raising questions that I have, let's summarize and we can chew on the big points afterwards. Okay? So we have 3 full hairs, which means root intact, that were recovered, 13 fibers and other debris. Apparently, these 3 full hairs, so hair with a root, were substantive enough to be hot potatoed over to the forensic biology section of the lab to endure continued testing and analysis, which is good news because that means 3 suitable samples. Court documents say the evidence is labeled item 316 as hair-like strands from a saw. The hairs were examined using stereo microscopy and were further examined using compound microscopy and may be suitable for nuclear DNA testing. So many big words. Since that information was given to the authorities on May 19th, methinks maybe the ex parte hearing that was subsequently scheduled 2 days later on May 28th might have something to do with it. That's right. 2 days later, just last week, an ex parte meeting was held with the judge. I'll break that down for you. But this might be an inch closer to the walls, closing in on Naresh Bhatt, because the theories and explanations they intended and likely intend to use in court not only have evolved, but are all more implausible and whimsical than ever. This evidence is important because it not only moves the ball further down the field to all but proving that Mamta is no longer with us, which has been a point of contention. Right now, she's just missing. But the only logical person who could have the means, motive, and opportunity is him. First, before the murder charge was levied, it was, well, how do you know she's not alive? She ran off. She could have run off. Who knows? And then when they charged him, after finding loss of life level amounts of blood in their house that was not cleaned up well, as if there was a body, not just a body, dragged and cleaned up, that doesn't mean she's dead or he did it. Now, we have one more item covered in biological evidence where one ought not to find it. The fact that they have 3 intact hairs with the root is a big deal because often just getting one good one is very difficult. And those can be examined via nuclear hair analysis. And the purpose of that would be to build a unique and complete DNA profile to compare and match to the established or future samples and identify whose hair it is. And then, of course, create a nexus between that person and the object or place it was found, and then who might have been using that object or who was in that place. So in other cases where there are only fragments, they can be tested using mitochondrial DNA or mtDNA, which is still useful, but not nearly as efficient or focused as nuclear DNA. So this is a big deal. In other instances, this mitochondrial testing, so maybe a broken hair or one that doesn't have a root on it, they use the hair shaft to create a less specific and only maternal genetic line, because you don't need male biological material because both men and women inherit mitochondrial DNA from a female parent. So since we all carry our mother's mtDNA, we can get 50% of your full picture by using it to construct a maternal ancestry, for example. But only biological men have a Y chromosome. So you'd need to test both your parents to get a full profile. And that would be with partial samples. Unless you're a man and your hair is being tested, then you're all set. So if you've ever taken an ancestry DNA test and you happen to be a girl like me, and you're like, well, damn, I won't get any specifics on my dad till he takes a test too. Do you know how hard it was to get him to take a test? He eventually relented, but I was relentless. Moving right along, the too long didn't read is we all carry the biology given to us by our mothers, but direct paternal lines and profiles require you to be a dude or have your dad, presumably a dude, with a Y chromosome tested. So partials are meh, full rooted hairs or a boost. Ooh, I was going to edit that out, but I feel third-hand embarrassment, second-hand embarrassment, and embarrassment for myself. But I have teenage stepkids, and I think they speak street Swahili, and it clearly has rubbed off on me. Just pretend I didn't say that. And you know what? Here, I'll wave the red flag at myself. In any case, this brings me to my questions, because something interesting happened just today. But this all confuses me a bit. This reciprocating saw has been in evidence for more than a year. It's the artifact from which the blood evidence even came from that built the DNA profiles to say that it was Mamta's blood on that. If you remember, this happened, she went missing the end of July 2024. And in December 2024, right before his original trial was about to start, and that was only for the 2 lesser charges, not the red rum charges. Literally days before, the blood evidence from that reciprocating saw was returned and matched Mamta. We did a video on the saw. It popped up already. I can't do it again. Just pretend. It'll be in the description link. At the time, it was sort of a miracle time-wise, like timing-wise, because without it, had they prosecuted him, they wouldn't have been able to turn around later and charge him with murder due to double jeopardy nuances. So he almost cleared that hurdle, but this came in the nick of time. But at the time, we were thinking, well, damn, why did it take this long? Now, in the world of forensic biology, it's possible that that was a really speedy turnaround, just a couple months, but it felt like an eternity. Are his attorneys raising red flags about why this is coming in so late? Is that why there was an ex parte meeting? I mean, an ex parte meeting is not a casual occurrence, and I'll break that down in 1 second, but his attorneys already asked for continuances, and it irritated the absolute hell out of the judge. And that was because they said there was too much evidence to dig through. So now, more than a year later, why did this hair evidence just come in? It was presumably taken. At the time, it was logged into evidence on the saw and being tested for blood samples. Did they just not look at the hairs? Did they not have time? I don't understand. One would imagine that if the blood and the hair came from the same place, they would have known about it and been testing it a year ago plus. So it was logged into evidence at the same time. It came from the same place. It can only be possible either because of a backlog, which I have on very good authority is not the problem here, or it was discretionary, that somebody specifically requested the testing at this point in time. Not entirely important at the moment, but it is interesting given the ex parte meeting could be a signal of what we're expecting. So circling back to what an ex parte meeting is. This is when one side of the case, whichever one, requests a private hearing with the judge, excluding the other side and the public. So there has to be an incredibly robust, urgent reason to do that. Usually it's to protect victims of DV or minors who, in this case, may come into conflict as far as witness testimony or personal safety, asking for financial resources for experts from the state if you're a defendant, or to prevent asset loss, like an urgent request to freeze a defendant's assets or accounts to prevent them from destruction of evidence, or reviewed sealed evidence or evidence in general for the purpose of having it sealed or unsealed from the public, or the unlikely scenario of some kind of ethical or other misconduct. But I don't see that being the problem here. The timing is not a coincidence, though, if you ask me. I don't think they wanted the defense to come in because obviously the Commonwealth decided to test it and announce it. So, I mean, it indicates to me that they don't want to expose the Commonwealth to their potential strategy while raising concerns to the judge. Why would Virginia say, Here we go, new evidence. And then 2 days later, go, judge, we need to talk. Sidebar. It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, it's possible that it's a strategy issue. Maybe they want to seal this evidence. I don't know. Because an ex parte meeting is not meant for our little ears. We may never know. Could we be seeing a deal in the future for Naresh? Or maybe one or both sides want the evidence sealed off. Who knows? Probably not the state, since we all know that it came in evidence. We will not be privy to which side requested the meeting. We can speculate and call a spade a spade. But no one could have survived the extent of the injuries inflicted according to the evidence we already have. Now, I have photos that are in evidence that were taken during the very extensive search of the Bhatt home, of the master bed and bathroom, where investigators speculate the majority of this ordeal happened, where he tried and failed miserably, as a man who's never cleaned a house would do, to clean up. They ripped out the tub and dumpster dived into those pipes. And the photos, they're not gory. In fact, if you look at them, you might not be sure what you're seeing until you drive your attention to the part where it's like, oh, you can clearly see by coloration alone that a lot of blood was flushed. And given the many hundreds of gallons of water that particular day were used in that house, which is way above and beyond normal, we cover that. 1 + 1 = 2. But out of respect for the family, who obviously don't want these photos circulating, they have been, but I'm not going to share them with you. I will let whatever live stream in court, law and crime, whatever is dictated that can be shown to the public during trial, I'm not going to cross that line. I find that disrespectful. But unless there's some magic Jose Baez level explanation, razzle dazzle, as a reason for all that blood in the house, and then the blood and the hair to be on a power saw belonging to the pants on fire, fib telling husband who can't get his life straight, whose wife is magically missing, I don't know. If it doesn't fit, you must find a new turn of phrase to abuse. Sorry, Johnny. It's a speculation. I would bet that the defense was the one that wanted the meeting. But then today, June 1st, so like we love the 2-3 day increments here. We're flying on the edge of our seat. I've been made aware that 2 days from now, on June 3rd, Naresh Bhatt's going to be asking to be bailed out ahead of his trial. What? Let's do a quick recap. May 26th, new evidence from an old piece of evidence comes in. Pretty damning, really just seals the deal. 2 days later, we have an ex parte meeting from whom, about in a house with a cat in a hat, don't know. 2 days, 3 days later, we're being told now he wants to bail out of jail. And then 2-3 days after that, we're apparently going to get this bond hearing. I have not been able to find it in the motions and hearing for either. All of these charges are organized in separate case numbers. Haven't found it. Possible that I'm just not looking closely enough, but the evidence is narrowing on a limited number of reasonable explanations and conclusions to draw, and his guilt is all but one of them. It's the only one, really. Their strategy has to be tenuous at best, and they will hammer on the lack of body, but lose sight of the corollary evidence here, when they really should be focused on tearing at that and how it leaves doubt, as opposed to, well, prove it, there's no body. Terrible approach. Looking at you, Michelle Troconis, Brian Walsh. You're not going to convince me or any other juror here. God forbid I get called for jury duty. Obviously, I can't serve, which totally bums me out because I think jury duty is very important. You won't convince me that she was just moonlighting as an IKEA building furniture enthusiast who just gave herself a boo-boo with a saw, which ended up with blood and hair on it. And she just slapped some Neosporin on it, went about her day, and then went missing. There's no reasonable explanation for her blood or other DNA to be on a saw in a home where you limited her movement and isolated her from the rest of the world. So the number of people who could have wanted to do something to her is quite small, in fact, non-existent. That sure backfired. But this is just an ass backwards, lazy answer for how they plan to defend him. That was what I took from way back when we hadn't charged him with murder yet, and then we did. And I don't see the strategy here, but we have a decent sample. We have DNA, blood, and hair for all of the people who lived in that house in which this crime likely occurred. So we won't have to look for a needle in a haystack like the Nancy Guthrie case, where they would need a fully rooted hair, or given updates in these testing methodologies, partial fragments can be tested and a profile to compare it to. Nancy Guthrie's case would mean developing a profile, but unless it comes from someone they've already taken a sample from with an existing DNA profile, it's basically going to sit there as an anonymous profile until they have someone to compare it to. But they have made no progress in this poor woman's case, which I can only hope they do sometime before we all get covered in dust and Pompeii happens again. I can't imagine what that family's going through, but that's a needle in a very, very large row of haystacks. But in this case, we can rule out the DNA belonging to anyone but Mamta and their daughter, their infant daughter. We all know she didn't do it. Now we have to just wait and see if he's going to get bailed out. It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. This timing is very interesting to me. This damning new evidence in the same week as an ex parte hearing, in almost, okay, let's say calendar week, in the same 7 days as then a potential bond hearing. I mean, seems like odd timing and very coincidental. Maybe it's not and I'm crazy. Maybe you have questions, maybe you have answers. Let me know. Drop an emoji in the chat that demonstrates what you're thinking and feeling right now. By all means, help me feel like I'm not the only crazy person here looking at this going, Also, it's just fantastical, in my opinion, for him to think that he's going to get out of jail. Sir, you have been sitting there for like a year and a half. And why now? Why now are you asking to be bailed out? This timing just seems a little sus. Interesting, but sus. Why now are you suddenly like, you know what? My time is now. Let's go do it. Was this evidence not so damning that you might want to reconsider that? Or it's just interesting. Sure, all this new stuff is coming out and the public is being made aware of it. Let's see if I can bust out of this and go join the public for a little while longer. Feels weird, feels strange, but I don't know anything about what's going on. I just know what I'm getting and the information I can confirm. So, as fantastical and whimsical as this idea is, I identify as 30, but that doesn't make it true or any less Delulu. So maybe crazier things have happened. In any case, if he's finding it hard to breathe and his chest feels heavy, I don't blame him. I won't condemn him, but I will sit through that trial as objectively as possible, weigh every possible piece of information. And so far, the magic 8-ball says absolutely not, sir. Again, drop some emojis in the comments. Tell me how you're doing today, what this makes you feel. What questions do you have? I can play emoji charades and try to interpret them. That could get fun. Let me know what you think is going to happen and what your thoughts are. Could we see a deal being offered to him or him asking for a deal if this evidence keeps coming out in these little spurts? Why does he suddenly think he might have a great shot with the same judge they pissed off many times over about getting bail now? So late in the game, only a mere 3-ish months before the trial. I could talk to myself all night, but I won't. I'll let you guys talk to each other in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. I'll update again if we get any more information, and I will certainly keep you posted this week about any bond. Come back and chill again, though. We will be here next time together, and many more times after that as we get our shit together. But like, share, hype, subscribe, help us get back on track, and we'd be forever grateful. Let the internet know we're here. We are revamping, and we've got all the exciting stuff we had on hold, a lot of really cool guests we know people want to talk to and hear from. We've explored some new interactive, hands-on, experimental type of episodes. And we just have a lot going on. But we'll be back, whether you love that idea or not. But you're here still, so maybe you do. So yeah, that's the update for now. If you have any information, tips, anything that can be remotely useful or helpful that you have not already shared with authorities about the recovery of, details of, or any information about Mamta Bhatt, I will put the police department and the Crime Stoppers hotline and phone numbers in the description. Please use it. If there's anything at this point that you might know that could be helpful, we want to bring her home. She is a beautiful little girl who's going to be 2 this summer. Her parents are here from Nepal, just kind of like hanging on. And it's just, It's another really horrific case of a young mother gone missing, into the wind, almost no sign of her other than the evidence that we have. I mean, if you've watched the Brian Walsh case through and through, this is almost exactly it, down to the charges and the cadence of the charges. This is terrifying. So please be safe. Please make good choices. Please stick with us. We want justice for Mamta. I will be in this trial every single day, hopefully out of the view of the camera, because I always get caught doing weird things like looking down or just really unflattering angles. But if you see me, maybe you win a prize. We hope you'll be back. And I wouldn't be a good jury duty podcast host if I didn't say, in closing, and reminding you all to make good choices, because we don't want to talk about them on the internet. We will see you soon.